In this video, we are looking at orthographic drawings, and in particular, we're going to look at adding centre lines and dimensions. I've already went ahead and placed my elevation, end elevation, and plan. And now we're going to look at adding centre lines and dimensions. Now, in National 5 and at Higher, it asks you to create orthographic sketches to allow us to manufacture the product. Now, you have already modelled the product using the data sheets, which means that there must be enough dimensions and information on the data sheet in order for you to manufacture it. Therefore, as long as we add all of the dimensions that are shown on the data sheet to our orthographic view, we should have enough dimensions in order to manufacture the product. It is easy to, once you're doing an assignment, to get a highlighter and highlight as you're going. Highlight every dimension that you have added to your drawing to make sure that you don't miss out any. And this is the same with centre lines. If something is circular in shape, it must have a centre line. Now, the technical drawings that you are given on your assignment usually do have centre lines added. However, be careful, the SQA sometimes may miss out information in order to kind of trick you and make sure that you know what you're doing and you know that every circle and curve should have a centre line. So we're going to start off with centre lines and we're going to go to the annotate along the top menu. And our centre lines can be found in this section here. Now there's a couple of sections, centre lines that you will use in graphics. You will use the centre line, you will use the centre mark, and sometimes you will use the centre line bisector. The centre line is used to create centre lines between edges of a model. Primarily that will be used for the elevation and the end elevation. The centre mark is used for arcs and circles. And the centre line bisector can sometimes be used if your centre line is not going in the centre of an object. Sometimes it might find another position and it might be slightly squint, and therefore sometimes it is easier to use the centre line bisector. The first thing we're going to do is look at adding centre lines to our plan. So we can see that we have a circle, so therefore we will be able to use the centre mark. And to use a centre mark, you just click it and then you select the largest circle. And you can see here it is automatically placed the centre lines in the circle. We're now going to look at adding centre lines to the elevation. So we do have a couple of curves that we can use the centre mark for. So I'm just going to select the 4 curves. But we can't add a centre mark down here because we don't have a circle and we don't have a curve. So instead, we're going to use the centre line. To do the centre line, you're going to select it. You're then going to click the green dot in the centre of the top of the object and the green dot in the centre of the bottom of the object, and then you can right click and press create. If for any reason the centre line is off and it's not showing accurately, and sometimes it shows at an angle, this is where sometimes we can use the centre line bisector. And to use that, you just select 2 lines and it will give you the centre mark between them. You should only use this if your centre line is not working. So in first instances, always use your centre line. And the same with the end elevation. We're going to centre line between the 2 middle points. And then we're going to use the centre mark to do all the curves. And there we've added centre lines to all of the circles, arcs, And now we're going to look at adding dimensions. So there are different types of dimensions that you will need to use. We are going to use the dimension tool at the top, and we're going to add the same dimensions that are shown in our data sheet. So I'm going to click dimension. If you're trying to dimension a circle, you just click the line of the circle and then click off it and press OK. Try to avoid clicking green dots. Sometimes that will not work. If you can't access a circle without clicking a green dot, you can kind of zoom in and then you should be able to add in your circles, like so. To add the height, again, we're going to click dimension, and you can click one line and then another line to get the distance between them. Now, when dimensioning, it's important to make sure that all of your dimensions are in line with each other. So for example, if I'm showing this as 15, I want to make sure that it's in line with the 100. We don't want it sitting too far out. We want them all to be chain dimensions so that they're all in line with each other. If I was doing another dimension, so for example, I want to say that the center to the bottom is 60, I can just set this into this space. We don't want dimensions to be inside the object or inside the model, and sometimes the SQA will put dimensions inside the model, again just to kind of trick you in to thinking that's where they go. We just want to make sure that every dimension is pulled out of the drawing so that they're easier to see and they're not crossing paths with each other. Once you have fully dimensioned your model and you've got all of the dimensions added as the same as the data sheet, you can then fill out your title block and save your orthographic drawing ready to be printed.